Hello and welcome to 21st Century Vitalism, a podcast asking the question, what does it mean to be fully alive in the 21st century? I'm your host, Brett Kane. I'm a licensed massage therapist and mindfulness meditation instructor, and joining us on the show this week is my new friend, Andreas David Christou from Finland, the co-founder of the Origin of Health Training Network, which is a lifestyle, fitness, and nutrition conglomeration that helps clients step deeper into their embodiment and be able to connect their mind, body, and spirit through really unique but challenging fitness routines that also involve our diets and how we just live our life day to day. So this conversation was a lot of fun for me. This is a very pointed conversation and very on the nose with the theme of this show of cultivating aliveness. So Andreas's focus is primarily movement. As a movement and nutrition specialist, we really go in depth into the intersection of how mind, body, and spirit all intersect and actually come to its edge state when we're actually engaging with a wellness practice, such as strength training or doing something like yoga or Pilates. Whatever your embodiment practice is, there's a lot of similarities to that. So this conversation is all about how we can move the energy in our body to promote wellness, wholeness, and connectivity within all of our different parts. We talk about his primal movement flows that you can head on over to Instagram at Origin of Health, and you see some of these really cool videos, really impressive fitness flows that are really unique, really something you just don't see very often. We talk about the process of alleviating stress and what stress is like in the body and how it clouds our mind and clouds our judgment. We are exploring how to create wholeness by bridging our mind and body, and how to actually listen to your body, and how to actually interpret pain not as necessarily an issue, but a signal to change your behavior. We talk about the alchemy of forgiveness and getting started with your strength training journey. We spend a great deal of time on nutrition and fasting and how some of the environmental factors in our lives are actually affecting our health. And overall, it's within the umbrella of living a more spiritually focused and connected life. So yeah, if you've listened to the show for a while, this is literally hitting all the check marks for the things that I'm really passionate about. And it was really cool to be able to sit down and pick his brain on this, because he's dedicated his whole life since he's been like 14 to this single pursuit. So this is a really fun conversation. There's a lot on offer here, so I definitely suggest if you got a notebook or something, start scribbling. Andreas does a lot of virtual trainings as well. So if this is something, if you are really resonating with his style of teaching and the specific things he's pointing out, then I really suggest you head on over to originofhealth.net and see if you can get involved. Like I said, his social media situation is really on point. He's very consistent. He's constantly posting really unique fitness tips and tricks and flows that are really inspiring. He's one of the few people that I will see consistently in my feed, and I'm always finding myself watching and like, dang, just such graceful movement. And I think that that's really one of the highest expressions of awareness, So we talk about that. We talk about graceful movement and what fluidity in motion is and how we can best do that. So yeah, this was a good one. This was a real good one, y'all. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I don't think there's really any updates at this point. Going into the new year, you'll be seeing a little bit of changes with the platform. We'll still be doing the bi-weekly episode release, but I just want to exert a little bit more on the social media, because I'm interacting with really cool people like Andreas, and they're just crushing the social media game. And it's just like, oh yeah, I forgot that's where everybody's at, is the social media. So yeah, I guess I'm gonna get over my age and join the masses a little bit more deeply. So that's something fun to look forward to. So yeah, if you want to help support the show, as always, you can head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. It seriously is the single best metric, and it really helps me kind of leverage my audience so that I can keep bringing on amazing people like Andreas and beyond. You can subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook, all like the typical things in the social media marketplace that just kind of show other people who are considering coming onto the show that, we're all here. We're all holding the fort down. And we're eager and we're hungry for more information. We're hungry to keep learning cool things about embodiment in this generation and how we can live the best, most honest and spiritual lives that we can without getting too lost in the clouds. So interacting with social media, it's huge. Otherwise, you can head on over to patreon.com/21stcenturyvitalism if you want to give us a monthly stipend. For the cup of coffee a month, you can help inspire the show's forward momentum. You can get a part of the early access kind of stuff. And we're going to keep this ball rolling for pretty much ever. I love doing this show. I hope y'all are feeling it. I would have never been able to talk to a Finnish movement specialist had it not been for the show. And, this conversation and many others have affected me. So super pumped about it. Super pumped that y'all are still tuning in larger and larger numbers. I appreciate you all so much from the bottom of my heart. It really does mean a lot to me that we're able to gather in this way. It's maybe a little one-sided for listeners, but, in time that will change. And, we really are building a community. And the more you listen to the show, the more you're prioritizing your own wellness and your own education and just expanding to new topics. Every week, you're going to be hearing something radically different from the last, from all the spectrum of wellness and, taking care of your mind and your body and your spirit. And that's what we're here to do, is we're here to just show up and be responsible to ourselves, to really just honor this incarnation, honor these human bodies, and really see, what does it mean to be fully alive right now? What does it mean to be a human being in the 21st century? We got Corona running rampant. We got crazy political discourse. We got systemic injustice, climate change. How do you find your balance? And let's talk about it, because a balanced perspective is a healthy one that stabilizes and harmonizes all of those around you. So this is important work. These are important conversations. I stand by them. So thank you so much again from the bottom of my heart. Today's guest is really wonderful. So please sit back, do some stretches, drink some tea, and most importantly, open your heart for Andreas. All right, Andreas, we are now live. Hello and welcome to 21st Century Vitalism. It is a pleasure to be sitting down with you this morning for me, afternoon for you. Just starting off, how are you? How's this year been treating you?
Yeah, I'm doing actually really great. The year has been really awesome for me personally, even though in the world the things don't seem to be, going that great. But for me, it's going great because I'm making sure it's going great. I take actions every single day to make sure that my life is good, because I can only control what I can control, what's in my life, and I make sure that I'm doing everything that I can to make life feel the best every single day. So.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really interesting because I've talked to quite a few people who, we can all collectively acknowledge the fact that these past 2 years have been really difficult for a lot of people. There's been a lot of people passing. There's a lot of uncertainty. But honestly, most people that I interact with on a more personable level are on a personal level, these have been some of the better years of my life, in that we are able to take our energy that we've been investing into these external systems, and we were invited to bring it all into ourselves and really take inventory on how am I showing up to myself now that I can't blame my job for taking away all my energy? And here in the States, a lot of people got unemployment, so they were just getting paid to chill out for up to a year. So a lot of people really use that momentum to explore themselves and where can I actually take action? I'm not really sure. How did Finland respond to the whole Corona situation?
Yeah, well, here there was some lockdowns at the beginning and in the middle of the period, but I wasn't, to be honest, paying much attention. I was as I said to you, I try to adapt as much as possible and according to the situation. So no matter what, I kept my business rolling because, I do coaching. I coach people in terms of movement, nutrition, and lifestyle. So even if the gyms were closed, I just took them outdoors, even if it was cold. And we did like bodyweight training, even without any equipment. So I just adapted to that. But basically now things are a little bit more relaxed. It seems that people are a little bit more chill, and I see way more people without masks on the streets. So I see the fear is starting to like drop down, and maybe that's because, of all the medications that have been put out there. But who knows? I'm just going with the flow and seeing where life takes me. So
yeah, it's really cool for someone who's kind of in your field, and I mean, kind of similar with mine as a massage therapist. Is like people are still wanting to engage with the body, maybe even more so now that there's like this external health threat, where it's like, it's not enough to just get the vaccine. We have to actually start embodying deeper and actually addressing the more fundamentals of our health. So I could see kind of a rise of the practitioner of whatever body modality, whether it's strength training or massage or, really becoming an important figure in our society post-pandemic.
Yep, and like how your mitochondria work, so that's like the powerhouse of your every single cell in your body, is determined so much by your lifestyle and not so much by your genes. And the mitochondria can alter the gene expression. So basically how you are determining how your health is going to go. So every single action and thought that you take is impacting your cells, and that can take you towards health or towards dysfunction. So it's just really important that you do steps every single day towards the better.
Yeah. So what was your journey like into kind of diving into this world? I read a little bit on your About Me that you weren't always a movement fitness kind of person, but this is something that you actually ended up developing. So for you, I guess if you could paint us a picture of just like what your transformation and stepping into that role looked like.
Okay. So I'll start from when I was 14 years old. That's kind of when my journey began in the fitness world, because I was an overweight, or more like obese child. I was around 95 kilos. I'm not sure how much that is in pounds. I think that's like around 180 pounds or something like that. And I was only 14, and that was mainly all fat, so that was quite a lot of weight. And I didn't feel very comfortable with myself, and I got called a lot of names at school, and that motivated me, that drove me to want to change. So I joined a health club. I started going to the gym, and I started researching everything on the internet about building muscle, losing weight, all of these traditional kind of things that you do when you start out. And basically I took the bodybuilding route at first because that's all I knew. I just wanted to transform my body at the beginning. I didn't know that there was such a thing as movement or moving your body. I thought it's all about pumping iron and building muscle and looking good. And I didn't really care because, I was so young about the health benefits. But as the time went on, until maybe when I was around 20 years old, then I went to the university and I did my first degree, which is in nutrition, and that's where I met my partner, Tina. And there we both combined our philosophies together, because she was more into this functional style training, yoga, endurance, and I was more into this bodybuilding style stuff. So I was kind of like the stiffest person you would ever meet, and I really needed a lot of loosening up, let's say, or adding some movement into my routines. And so basically she expanded my mindset. And then I thought that, okay, that building muscle is important, but being able to move well is also even more important, because I started to get some aches and pains as well over time, because I did many mistakes over the years, because I never hired a personal trainer myself. I was self-taught the majority of the time. So And then after that, basically what happened, the journey just began from there. When I met my girlfriend, we just started merging ideas continuously together, combining yoga and like body weight training and animal flow and unconventional training, basically everything unconventional. And I fell in love with the unconventional style of training, which is anything with a free weight tool that you can use with your body in a way that's not traditional, so not like pumping the iron, but you're moving with the weight. So you can use your body weight as a resistance, or you can use a kettlebell as a resistance, or you can use a steel mace or a dumbbell. It doesn't matter what way you use, but it's just that those tools allow you to take your body to the next level. And now, well, for 2 years now, I have been coaching people face-to-face and online, and that's basically where I'm at right now. And I'm constantly aiming to expand my library, my brain library, on and empower myself about different things on health and how the biochemical aspect of health can impact the mechanical, so how the muscles move and the tendons and the ligaments. So this is why nutrition and environmental impact has a big role on movement as well, because a lot of times we think that movement restrictions are caused because we're not moving enough, or we've done something too much, or because of an injury. But sometimes when it's unexplainable, it's time to shift the focus. And I'm slowly learning this right now, because I have experienced this myself, because I've been having some aches and pains lately, and I've been realizing that no movement helps. But when I shift some certain things in my diet, I notice my inflammation in my body goes down, and I feel a lot better, and I can move better. So it actually shows me that biochemically I'm altering my cellular function, and that's helping me to move better. Well, that's basically my story, and until now.
I love it. Yeah, it's a really interesting conversation that I don't think is had enough in some of the fitness circles that I've kind of been a part of, which I'm fairly new to the world of embodied movement and strength training and such, but it's that of inflammation. And what we're talking about is things literally becoming inflamed and irritated. And a lot of that is caused by our diet. It's caused by the spaces that we find ourselves in, even our relationships. If something is stressful, it's actually causing inflammation in the body. So I love this new revolution in health, in that we are looking at every aspect of our being, and we're even bringing in things like meditation to bring ease to the body as well. As a manual therapist, that's what really interests me, is the intersection between how we take care of our mind and our awareness and how it manifests in the body.
Absolutely.
And what I really like about your platform is all the videos that you're posting are these really unique flows. I think you call them like animal movements, or like the primal movement training. I've heard a little bit about this from other people, and my background of studying myofascia, one of the things that you often see is the issues in like strength training is this like static thing, like you're building your bicep, but you're not actually training your fascia to expand and move with it. So you're actually tearing it and lowering your range of motion. So how did you end up, what was like the path of developing this like primal movement? How would you explain that to people who are just from the traditional strength training background?
Yeah, so basically I would, like the animal primal-based movement is what I would call ground-based movement. So what you would just use your body as the form of resistance against gravity, and the floor is your friend. That's where you came from when you were born. You started crawling when you were young, and that is when you start building the first original primal patterns in your body. You're starting to increase your cognitive development based on your movement capability. So the more you improve your movement, the more your brain is literally becoming bigger and more aware. And this is basically, I know, I read this once in a scientific article, that the brain actually develops in size because we stand up straight. And because we stand up straight on two legs, we require so many more neurons and so many more connections to be able to maintain our balance, because the body has to literally rewire itself to a new level of view or dimensions or whatever. And also to be able to support yourself only on your feet. So the feet have to become strengthened, and that's why the feet have some of the most amount of neurons, not neurons, but neuronal endings on your feet, because that's basically what gives you the feedback to the brain, the proprioception, so you're able to react to your environment. So back to the primal based movement. So when you are down on the floor, you are literally revisiting your childhood, and you are bringing safety to your body. And safety is a really big deal, because when your brain feels safe, that's when pain dissipates. It starts to go away. Because when you're standing on your two legs and the proprioception is missing, which is the sense, it's the feeling, where is your body in space? If that's missing, or for some reason it's become dysfunctional by wearing like very thick cushioned shoes, for example, that reduces the amount of time that you can react to your environment, because you can't sense the ground as fast as you should. Whereas if you were barefoot or wearing barefoot shoes. And so basically when you increase your proprioception, you increase safety in the body, because you are providing more information to your brain. So this therefore makes you stronger, because you can feel more. So the more the body can feel, and the fact that you are spending more time on your hands, the more stronger you become. And in this way, when you're on the floor, there is an unlimited amount of things that you can do, because you just have to explore your environment and see where can the body go from here. So there is no strict way of moving, or right or wrong way of moving, or keeping your back like ultra straight or rounding your back, because the body doesn't like stagnation. It likes change. It loves change. And that's what actually keeps everything flowing and moving in the body. And we want the blood to flow around, we want the oxygen to flow around, we want the lymphatic system to flow around, because all of these support the health of the brain and the rest of the body as well. So primal animal-based movement is a holistic unity approach of body weight training that like allows you to move without this eccentric and concentric work. It's more isometric, I would almost, but there are of course like some concentric and eccentric works as well in there, but it's more isometric kind of work, and you're lengthening the body and compressing it, and then you're constantly moving it. So it's almost a little bit with like yoga and Pilates and martial arts all combined together, and dancing. It's all of those are really similar to each other.
Yeah. And I mean, even from like looking at your videos and some of the stuff that you post, like there is a level of gracefulness to it that I think is, honestly, it's like really beautiful to see, just such fluid movement coming about, and especially in these like really unique ways that many people, I mean, you just don't see that really anywhere. So I've definitely found some inspiration in it, and it gets me to think about the idea of like, it's a really vulnerable thing to bring yourself into a state that is reminiscent of our childhood or our early years, especially if there's been any sort of trauma in those years, if we have difficult relationships with our childhood. And I'm thinking about, I have a lot of clients and I know a lot of people who maybe like in their like 50s who kind of grew up in a generation prior who are really stiff. And like the idea, like every now and again you'll see someone in your family like, sit on the floor, and it's a really like, you can kind of see like the insecurity that kind of comes out. There's this sense of like feeling alienated in their body. It's just like this like weird thing, and I wonder how much of that has to do with the neurological information just being on the floor. It brings them back into a state where they were vulnerable, and like standing up is our defensive kind of like, if you're in a fight, unless you're in jiu-jitsu, you probably want to be, you know, more mountainous rather than like close and like so it's just interesting, like you are working with your mind also as well as these more primal forces.
Absolutely, it's all about the intention. Of course there is unintentional movement, which is what you call like somatic movement, where you are more like allowing your body to flow where it wants to go. So it's more thoughtless. You are trying to just sort of like hover around with the energy in your environment and within yourself, and you're trying to feel the energy as if you're feeling the wind blowing you from side to side like a tree when it flows. That's kind of called like somatic movement. And then there is what I do in my videos, which is movement with intention. So I channel the energy. I determine where I'm going to be with my body in my mind first, and then I visualize where I want to go, and then in that way I I just produce an endless map of where it can take me. There is no ending, because it's just, as you know, once energy starts, it doesn't stop. Like an object that is in motion wants to stay in motion, and an object at rest wants to stay at rest. And you mentioned also about the trauma as well, and when people revisit the crown, the thing is that movement brings about emotions so much, because emotions get stored in the muscles. And basically what happens, for example, if you get scared right now, you might have a reaction in your body. You might tense somewhere in your body. We don't know where. Maybe it could be in your traps, it could be in your middle back, it could be in your obliques, in your abs. And this tension with the fear or the emotion will get stored there. And that will not be released until you either go in with your mind and you say to yourself and you release it internally, you consciously are aware of it and you release it, or if you move your body and you are unaware of it, but you just start moving and you start to feel this emotion coming about. You don't know what it is. You might start feeling like you want to cry or you want to shout, you want to scream. But when you do this, you actually let go of so much. So actually movement and exercise is absolutely huge for mental health, because it actually allows all the stored emotions that are stored within the body and in the muscle out of the body. So it's a form of expression. Movement is a form of expression.
I love that. I also really liked, I heard this idea that like emotion is energy in motion.
Yeah.
But the idea that, I mean, that totally rings true with all the modern trauma science, the work like Peter Levine and The Body Keeps the Score, in terms of the way that emotions get locked in our body. And I wonder, because there's a lot of people who are engaged in physical activity who you could maybe even say don't have that same fluidity of emotion. They're going, they look really great, they've put a lot of time into their body. Do you think that that has something to do with, I mean, there's kind of like the safe tracks of movement in fitness, I feel like, where you're doing your biceps, you're doing your chest, you're doing all these things, and there isn't the same fluidity of that kind of somatic free flow, whereas like the intention movement that you do still has that sense of flow within it. Do you think that this stuff, is it possible to actually build on top of that stuck energy and actually lock it in?
Do you mean that, for example, if I was to choose, if let's say I experienced trauma, and then I was to do like a bodybuilding lifestyle where I'm just pumping iron and I'm becoming stiffer and stiffer by the day? Of course, this is not like putting down anybody who is doing bodybuilding or strength training. I do it myself as well, on top of everything else that I do with movement, because I believe that they have a perfect, how would you call it, unity. They go really, really well together. They complement each other, because if you train your muscles to become bigger, they also become stronger. When you're stronger, you can move your body even better if you do body weight training. So you can actually really take it to the next level. So you can start doing more insane things with your body. So, but back to what you were saying about the emotions and the trauma, I believe that if you are constantly running away from yourself, and you are using exercise to avoid your emotions, eventually you will hit a point where, like a wall, where you will, like no amount of exercise will fix it. You will need to go either within, or you will need to do some kind of meditation or some form of breath work or some kind of like healing, you know. So I believe that it definitely doesn't go away if you don't become aware, because the thing is that we have to become conscious. We have to become aware of how we feel inside. We have to acknowledge those emotions, how we feel. We need to accept them for what they are. We need to question, why are they there? And do we want to continue to feel this way? And if it's from the past, what we need to do, we need to just go in there and rewrite our past as if it never happened. Or if we don't want to rewrite it, we can just forgive it and let go. Even if it's something that we haven't done wrong in the situation, we can still forgive ourselves and still forgive whatever happened in that situation. So we can set ourselves free, so we can let go of the chains, the mental and emotional chains that exist in the body. And in that way, it will bring this sense of lightness to the body, and the sense of presence, because you are not carrying your past with you, and you are living more in the present, and in that way you are able to express yourself way more. And expression is movement in every manner. For me to speak right now, I have to express I have to move, right? So I have to be present right here, right now. So yeah.
Yeah, I love the idea of forgiveness being an alchemical process that actually has like a biochemical function within the body. I feel like a lot of times people are really, they think of like forgiveness and they like, oh, it's this really airy-fairy kind of like, unpractical thing. Yeah, it's, it's better, whatever. But like really what it is like it has like a host of physiological changes when you're holding on to something, when you're holding on to a grudge or a trauma like that. Like it's actually like a dissolving agent on blockages within your body. It's like forgiveness is presence, it is awareness. And I find that so many people just have so many defenses against, if they have blockages in their body, sometimes it's really even hard to prioritize bringing presence in. People have these filters that keep them away from, they just associate with some like hippy-dippy thing, and then it's like a defense mechanism which keeps them from actually using these forces for their well-being. So how did you end up developing, I don't know if you've ever had blockages for it, or I imagine with your transformation from being overweight at 14, there had to have been a lot of forgiveness, but how did you realize that this was something that you needed to do in order to have a more fluid expressed motion?
So do you mean my work, or do you mean to work through myself, my emotional traumas?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the same thing, right? It's like that's what informs your work.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, I believe, I need to just say this real quick, that the body has like a stress bucket. As you say that, the body keeps the score. So the stress bucket is only so big unless you make it bigger. There are ways to make it bigger, but let's focus on like what happens when it gets full. And so when we keep on filling this stress bucket up and up and up, and it gets to the absolute max, that's when it overflows, right? So the bucket is overflowing, the body can't handle any more stress. The body can't tell the difference between emotional stress or physical stress. It's all the same, or biochemical stress. On the cellular level, the body just sees stress. And so when the body is stressed out, as you said, we have like inflammation, and we have all sorts of other things happening as well in the body. And so basically, like when through my own transformation, I had to really forgive myself and to accept myself for who I am, and also transform my ego self, because at one point I was focusing a lot on how my body was looking like, and moving towards the movement lifestyle of moving more and not caring so much about how I looked, but more how I felt like. That started to bring awareness to me, because instead of focusing on the external, I was focusing on the internal, how I was feeling. And then because of this process of more of how the body was feeling, I was then forced to realize how is the mind feeling. So it all kind of just unraveled itself from there, and then all of a sudden the consciousness itself, and I started doing meditation and breath work. And breath work is also something mechanical that you can do. It's intentional, but it can have very big psychological effects and physiological effects, because it affects your body, it affects your mind. So it always goes hand in hand together. It's never separated. You can't separate the two, because your brain is literally sitting on top of your body. You want to think of your brain as the flower, and your body is the soil, and the roots are the nerves, and they are running through the body, and it's literally like your temple right here. And what you feed into your body, like emotionally, spiritually, your thoughts, your food, how you treat your body, is all impacting your soil, and that also impacts your flower, which is your brain. And so this is the big realization that I have come to, and how movement can be so impactful on people's lives in helping them bring the awareness to themselves, and to start to feel present within their body, in this present moment. It doesn't need to be like all out like meditation from the first day. But slowly people start to feel more in tune with themselves, and they don't want to feel bad anymore. And once they start to set these boundaries, it's so important, because once you set the boundaries, you now say, I'm not dropping below this level. I'm going to keep this standard, and I'm going to keep on improving myself in every aspect of my life, not only in how I feel physically, but also how I feel mentally, and also in my relations and everything else. So, yeah.
I love everything you just said. That the metaphor of the brain being the flower and your entire body being like the root system and the soil really speaks to a lot of my interpretation of a lot of like psychology and mental health stuff. I don't think that there's anything wrong with the Western psychological pharmaceutical kind of thing. I think some people definitely need some, like, if they're spiraling out, to have that kind of parachute. But I think, like, fundamentally the part of the conversation that's often ignored is that what are we doing with our bodies? We want to focus on the mind as if it's this externalized thing, but it's totally interdependent. You can't separate those two things. So I think having that conversation, which I'm starting to see a lot of fitness people really take on, the role of being the bridge between the mind and the body, and seeing how interwoven they are. And I think that really brings us into the 21st century on what it means to be vital, to be healthy, to be whole. You know, is that level of integration. Yeah, and that I totally forgot the other thing that I was going to say. I was basking in what you were just talking about there.
Yeah, it's completely about wholeness. You know, the body is one unity. You know, you cannot separate anything, the brain and the body at all. You can't separate the gut from the liver and the heart. So even though we have in this Western culture, and you know, in the medical system, everything is separated. So you go to the doctor, to the gastroenterologist for your gut, and you go to the heart doctor for your heart. But you know, we need to see everything holistically, because once one thing is impacted, it's a system. The system is dependent on the groups within it. If the groups are not functioning well, then the whole system collapses. This is just what happens. This is what you see in general, like with the body, because if, for example, if you have low oxygen in your body, that can impact one part of your body, and then that impacts the rest of your body, because everything is impacted. So it all works in this kind of like a circular, holistic way, and this is basically what movement does. When you're moving your body just with your body weight, and you're not using weights isolating a specific muscle, what you are doing, you are connecting your hands with your feet, you know, through the fascia, the fascial web, which is kind of like this giant spider web which encapsulates all the muscles. And the muscle is like, or the body is like a grapefruit. And the juice inside the grapefruit is the muscle, and the webbing of the grapefruit is the fascia. You want to imagine the body like that. And so basically the body would not have a shape without the fascia. And so this is how you can move gracefully and efficiently. And efficiency is super crucial, because everybody, when they are exercising, depending on what they are striving for, they are normally, if you are wanting to lose weight, a lot of people are aiming to burn more calories, or, you know, expend more energy. And in my view of what I want to achieve when I'm moving is not that. I want to achieve the feeling of feeling awesome, feeling good, like mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I want to feel good in every aspect, and it does make me feel good. Like, it primes me to feel better mentally once I have done movement. So before this session right now, before we jumped on the call, I obviously did some movement, and that lights up my brain. It makes me fully present. I'm right here, right now. And when I'm doing movement, when I'm in the movement, I'm fully present. And a lot of the times, when you are doing weights and you are just isolating a muscle group, it's so easy to get zoned out and to be just thinking about other things and you are not present in the movement. And that can be dangerous sometimes, you know? That can lead to injuries as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think people really recognize, I mean, I always say, I don't think people do this or that, but I think there is a large misconception of like how little movement it actually takes to start to feel better. Even 10 minutes, if you are working, I heard this idea that if you're working at a computer for an hour, take 10 minutes of that hour and do a little dance. Just get something happening in your body, doing unique movements will actually connect the parts of your body, and you start to bring the entire thing online. And
Exactly.
I think one of the things that is often really difficult for people when they make this journey to bring their awareness into their body is this lack of intuitive understanding that you do have an internal kind of flashlight of awareness that you can move around your body. So I think by you saying like your gut health affects this, your heart, it affects all these different things, a lot of people don't actually have a very intuitive, direct experience with what their gut even feels like. We wake up and then we have this kind of snowball of all of these different sensations, and we just say, that's how I feel, but we don't have the ability to parse things out often. And I think by using that flashlight of awareness and really like getting to have a direct relationship with what your gut is feeling like day to day, whether it's hurting, whether it feels good, like to really intentionally create that relationship and that dialogue so that the moment it starts to feel a little funny, it doesn't just blur into the rest of your experience, but it actually communicates to you. You learn to actually have a conversation with the different elements of your body, and that's how you can bring it all into a holistic, unified whole. But, you know, it does kind of take that awareness training of like, we're so centralized up here in our heads and our thoughts. We're planning, we're organizing, we're constantly going through narratives. And the entire time we're just dragging our body around. And it's telling us so many messages. And when you're connected to that, you're connected to life. You're connected to the person you're talking to. You know, it doesn't take you away from that. It actually brings you closer.
Absolutely. And you know, like pain is a signal to the body. It's a request for change. You know, I've heard that quote from Dr. Perry, you know, Dr. Perry Nicholson, stop chasing pain, if you have heard of him before. So pain is a request for change. Your body is giving you a signal, and it can start on the micro level, like so small that it doesn't bother you, but it's there, and it's giving you the signs, and you don't pay attention, and you just keep on ignoring it, and then eventually the pain is so great that it's literally right in your face. It's saying to you, please, like, pay attention to me right now. So that is your sign, that is your signal that you need to do something, you need to change something in your life, whether that is your nutrition or your movement, your lifestyle, your sleeping habits, your relationships, your emotions. You need to take control. So basically, the awareness is actually what drives the change. So if we can start to become more in tune with our body and quieten everything else that's unnecessary, with focus on what is necessary, and what is the most necessary in everybody's life is their health. Because without health, you cannot do the things that you enjoy. You cannot take care of your loved ones. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Your cup has to be filled and overflowed, and therefore you can give endlessly once your cup is full. And then you need to take the time to recharge yourself, to rest, to restore, to acknowledge when you need to do that. And then again, that comes back to, again, listening to the body and being aware of what you need right now. So sometimes moving the body is not what the body needs. Sometimes the body just needs to sleep. Sometimes the body just needs to rest. Or you just need to spend some time in nature. Most of the times moving the body is a good thing, because most people right now are not moving enough, and especially because of COVID. Now everybody has been so much more sedentary, and that causes a lot of movement dysfunction, because when you sit down all day, that makes you very tight on your hip flexors and your lower back and your neck and everywhere like that. So moving is normally a good thing. It really depends. You can also obviously overdo it as well. So you have to, again, go back to listening to your body and realize, are you feeling overtired, or are you feeling good, or are you feeling very energized? And then you can then determine how you want to plan your day. And as you mentioned about the movement snacks, as we like to call them, you know, these mini breaks of moving while you are sitting, you know, for prolonged periods of time. it's extremely, extremely useful, because when you are sitting, everything slows down so much. The blood flow slows down to the brain. The oxygen that is uptaken is way less, because you are obviously breathing slower and everything like that. So basically, when you move your body, you start breathing more. You start pumping everything around more. Your brain starts to receive more nutrients and oxygen as well. And also you are clearing your lymphatics as well from your brain to go to the rest of the body. So if you are experiencing brain fog and you are sitting many, many hours at work, it's probably a good idea to stand up and walk around, or take a deep squat and relieve the lower back from all the chronic sitting. So it's just the small little things, even just taking a static position like a squat, a deep squat, and just sitting there in the squat for maybe as long as you feel like, where it's comfortable on your joints, and then you stand up. That will just promote so much goodness to your brain and your body, and that literally takes only 2 minutes. And so basically what I'm doing, like every single day, every time when I'm sitting on my computer, or when I have to do computer work, or if I have to do like programs and things like that, or coaching online, I move myself all the time. So every single hour I have basically a small movement session, and I have like specific movements that I like to do. I basically run from the head to toe, like specific movements, and I'm just making sure that my body's feeling loose but ready. Because I don't like to feel too loose, because you can't become too loose as well. And I've been there, and now I'm trying to fix that. So there is a thing such as hypermobility. I was too stiff, then I became hypermobile, and now I'm trying to find the middle grounds. So if you are moving your body too much, or if you are stretching too much, doing too much mobility work, well, mobility means strength and flexibility combined. But flexibility alone can just make the tissues longer and longer and longer, and then basically then they will just stay long, and then your body gets frightened, your brain gets afraid, and it's like, hey, I can't control so much length, I don't have the strength to control this length. So what it's going to do, your body's going to tighten you up even further, and that's going to most likely cause pain, which is what has been happening to me for the last maybe 1 to 2 years. So my whole body has become extremely loose, and now I'm focusing on doing strength training in the full range of motion. And that is the key to maintaining mobility. So the reason why a lot of people lose mobility, or they're not able to maintain mobility, they do a lot of stretching, so the muscle becomes long, but then after a while it starts shortening and shortening, it goes back to its position, or it stays long. So what you want to do, you want to strength train in a full range of motion, because this is what actually is going to load the muscle to its longest position with the weight that you are using, whether this is with weights or with body weight training. It doesn't matter which way you do it, because you can achieve it both ways. That's the beauty of it. But of course with body weight training you can achieve greater levels of mobility, because you can just do more advanced things, more dangerous things that you wouldn't want to do with the weights. And so in this way, this is how you see gymnasts and people who do these like splits, and they are able to be very flexible, and they are able to lift their leg using the mind without pulling it with their hand, using the mind, which means that their brain acquires the connection. You have the strength, and you have granted the access to your body to be able to be this mobile, because you have shown it through strength that it's okay to acquire. Yes.
Wow.
Went a bit on around.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful.
Okay.
No, that's great. So if folks aren't really used to doing like actual strength training, how would you suggest people kind of start that journey? I mean, for me, I immediately am like, maybe you should find a trainer, but not all trainers are made equal, as I'm coming to find out. So like what's like a safe way that people can actually start working with this in their life? Is there a specific thing that they should maybe avoid when they're starting out, or something they should seek out, or what would be your first suggestion?
Well, I believe you should do a really good research online. Find someone who is locally there around wherever you live, because when you're doing it face to face, they're able to show you way better how it's done. So that's my first tip. So my second tip is make sure that you know what you want. What are your goals? Do you want to gain more strength? Do you want to gain more muscle? Do you want to move better? Or do you want to achieve all of the above? And then you just start searching, for coaches like this. Once you find a desired coach, normally at the beginning, if people want to start at the gym, I would generally do with them the big five, which is like the squats, the deadlifts, the bench press, the shoulder press, and maybe some pull-ups or rows. And that it just involves either a barbell, just one barbell, or dumbbells. And that's basically the program at the beginning, so they gain the foundation. You are building the strength from all planes, basically, of gravity. And then if I was to do it with bodyweight training, I would use a completely different approach, because you just have to do things differently when you're doing bodyweight training. So for bodyweight training, I would start with pull-ups, push-ups, bodyweight squats, sprints, maybe some lunges, and then from there, some ab work as well, and some lateral work as well, more like athletic, lateral jumping side to side and stuff like that, just to work the lateral plane also, because that's extremely important, and some rotational work as well. But that's where I would begin, and that's what I would advise people to look for, someone who is an expert in this area, and start with a program which is going to build the if you don't have a foundation yet, you need to build the foundation, especially if you are going to get into bodyweight training, because bodyweight training can be extremely taxing on the joints, just because you are using your body as a form of resistance, and sometimes we are not ready to accept our body as a form of resistance. And I've experienced this with a lot of my clients. They get like a lot of wrist pains or even knee pains at the beginning when we begin, before their body adapts. So at the beginning we take it quite slow, and then once your joints are getting used to it, they have gone through the adaptation process, that's when we start to do a little bit more work, and we start to do more advanced things. And it's the same thing with the weight training as well, but with the weight training you can use such a light weight that it's more accessible. And if you have joint issues when you are joining a gym using machines, it can be a massive benefit. So for example, if you do want to transition into bodyweight training, but you're not capable yet, what I would recommend is that you join the gym, you get a coach, and they help you make a program which is using machines or barbells or dumbbells, which is going to help you build a certain level of a foundation. And once you have built that foundation, and then you feel confident, then you can start exploring the body weight world. And that's basically what I would suggest to people. Yeah.
Wow, that was very thorough. I really enjoyed that. So at what point do you think they have to start bringing in the idea of changing their diet? Because, I mean, what we're really talking about is a complete transformation. If you really want to walk the path of, like, strength training, what I'm realizing, I just started my own journey into it. I got a trainer who is very well received here in the area, and I mean, the first session I had with him, he gave me a sheet, and he's like, here's what you're going to need to eat if you want to really maximize the productivity of this. So at what point would you just say maybe dive into the actual exercise first, maybe worry about diet later, or would you say it's better to just kind of get it started right off the bat? And how would you just incorporate expanding from just strength training?
Okay, so basically when it comes to nutrition, it's something that you do on a daily basis, and maybe many times throughout the day, depending on how many times you eat. So this is something that is going to impact your life massively. So the things that you do most are the things that have the biggest impact on your life, because what you do consistently is what makes the change, and that can be towards the worst if your actions are not in line with what you want to achieve. So let's say your life is not supporting your health, not supporting your goals. You need to change your nutrition right now. With your next meal, you need to change your nutrition. You need to go on the web, you need to research about holistic health and well-being, and you need to find how to fight inflammation with nutrition. You need to discover the power of fasting, and you need to discover the power of self-control, because these are all parts of the process, because the nutrition is so much here in the mind. we have so much emotional attachment to food. Like everybody's so emotionally attached to food, everybody can't wait for the next meal, or everyone's constantly thinking about what you're going to eat tomorrow or on the weekend where you're going to, like let's say you're going to cheat meal, but you shouldn't feel like you're always looking forward to the next meal. Food is supposed to fuel your body, and you're meant to eat to live, not live to eat. Okay, I mean, you can of course enjoy food, but you shouldn't feel like you are emotionally attached to it. And if you are emotionally attached to it, then I recommend that you find somebody who is expert in fasting, and they help you do a guided fast, because that will change your life. If you learn how to fast and you have self-control over yourself, so meaning not eating any foods for a certain period of time, or even doing intermittent fasting, so not eating a certain amount of the day and then eating your meals in a short time frame, this will teach you consistency, it will teach you discipline, and it will make you more healthy overall, because you will be able to allow your body to clear out things from inside your system that have been sitting and stagnating in there for years if you haven't fasted before. And what happens when you sleep? When you sleep, you are fasting. And why do you think sleep is a miracle? Well, the sleep is flushing out the brain in the night, so it's like moving the lymph and doing a lot of recovery processes. It's getting rid of lots of dead cells and mutated cells from the body that could potentially cause a lot of harm in the future if they're not removed. And then you are also detoxifying in the night. So basically all of these things are extremely powerful, and the fasting, this is where it comes in, right? So you're not eating in the night, and that's allowing your body to make this healing process happen. And when your digestive system is filled, your body is putting the energy there into the digestive system in digesting the food. It's not focusing on repairing your body, healing your body, because the body is divine in its pure essence, without anything, just as it is. No food, no nothing. Just as it is, the body is divine. So if we remove everything, it knows what to do. This is how fasting works, and this is basically like how your body can heal itself. But yeah, you need to find somebody who is specialized in fasting, do your research, and before you dive into it, because it's not for the faint-hearted. It's quite a hard journey, especially if you've never done it before. And so, but the best way to approach it, I believe, is intermittent fasting, because you can start with the micro level, and then if you want to maybe do a longer term fast for a deeper cleanse, then you can do that. But I will start with intermittent fasting. But then the nutrition part in relation to the training, depending on your goals. For example, if you want to gain muscle and you are not training yet, I wouldn't start eating more food before you start training more, because as I said, what you are doing, you are overloading the system when you are eating more food, but you are not exercising more, because the body doesn't need the fuel. You're just going to store it as fat, or you are going to excrete it from your body. So you only want to introduce or change things when you know the plan. So if your goal is to lose weight, already you can change your nutrition before you start your exercise plan. But if you want to gain weight, you want to start it when you start your exercising, and you actually train more intensely when you're breaking down more muscle, so you can build more muscle back. If you're focusing more on longevity and health, that is when you focus on the intermittent fasting and the fasting overall, and in general focusing on eating nutrient-dense foods. So every single thing that you eat, you need to think, is this taking me towards health, or is it taking me towards disease? Because there is no middle. It's only one way or the other way. And so the body, if you overload the body with foods that take you towards dysfunction, your body has to constantly work harder and harder in detoxifying you, and not in repairing you and removing things from your body that are not meant to be there. And therefore, the nutrition is critical, and knowing what you are putting in your body to actually help to improve the detoxification process, and not place an extra load on it, and actually to promote the detox process and to allow healing to repair and the vitality to take place. So.
Yeah, it's such an important element, and it's something that's really like fundamental to what it means to be human. I find when I'm engaging with people, like I'm changing my diet a lot too in terms of like reducing my sugars, eating way more protein to compensate for my strength training. And when I'm having conversations with people, you know, and whenever anybody expresses any sort of resistance to it, it always comes down to this story-driven like narrative of like, well, I couldn't give up mac and cheese. You know, I grew up eating mac and cheese. It was something that my pap made me, and like we have to understand that like our relationship to food is more than just like this superficial, like I think it tastes good, but we actually identify through our food. You know, there are people who are like, are you a Coke person or a Pepsi person? And like we have to be able to see like the tendrils that our food choices actually integrate into our sense of self, our sense of being. So I also think that that element of engaging with our nutrition, with our diet, is another one of these transformative processes that completely frees up your awareness, because you're not carrying these stories and these connotations to experiences that happened in the past, but you're able to choose freely something new in the future. But oftentimes we have like an addiction to our dis-ease, so to speak. And I like that you kind of pointed out that, you know, like every choice food-wise, and I'd say otherwise, you know, it's towards health or towards disease, you know. So this idea that like we have so much baggage, habitual baggage, that is actually keeping us from being able to expand that flashlight of awareness to be able to incorporate our wholeness. And as we start working with that flashlight and developing that ability to perceive ourselves as whole beings, not just a mind carrying a body around, we start to see these like unhealthy relationships to things. And I think that that is the forefront, like the battle line of this entire fitness thing is like, yeah, you're doing the workout, but like how are you integrating the benefit of that workout, the productivity, momentum into the rest of your life? And I think before we see it take place on a mental health level, we have to see it take place on a physical level, because that's the part that we're largely disconnected from. So oftentimes, you know, people set up camp and they want to help all the mental health without focusing on these storylines, these habitual baggages that we're carrying around. But really, it might seem disconnected, but it's 100% why you feel bad, you know. We have all this habitual tendency towards disease, because that's what we've learned. And I think food is a really good ground. It's a good foundation to start working with. And if you can get your food in order, then everything else naturally, because you have fuel, you know, and that's the thing, is like food is fuel. But it's not fuel for some people, it is themselves, you know, so it's their comfort, it's their love, it's their relationship, their family connection, you know. So I think it's really a crucial, like, you don't have fitness without nutrition. And I mean, absolutely. The nutrition, fitness arises from it, you know.
Yep, absolutely. It's all connected, and you know, it all helps each other, and it complements each other, and it will always be that way, because as we mentioned earlier, like the body is a unity. You know, you can't just like focus on just one aspect. You have to focus on all the aspects if you want to improve your life. When you look at the greatest athletes in the world, they take the most care of their nutrition, they take the most care of their lifestyle, of their sleep, of their like exposure to different environmental like threats. You know, they are not meaning like attacking kind of way, but more the chemical loads. You know, they are impacting our detoxification system, which is not part of your nutrition. It can be part of your nutrition depending on the food that you're eating, but the environmental load on our body these days is insane. You know, with the amount of microplastics that are in the environment, and many other things in you know, in the water that we drink and everything like that, and in the food that we find in the supermarket. For example, I always try to eat organic and local as much as I can, but you know, a lot of the things are packaged in plastic, and I have to buy it like that because that's just how it is, and I don't have a choice. And I have to just make the best decisions that I can in this present moment. You know, a lot of people like to say that, you know, I'm gonna die someday anyway, so I'm just gonna live my life now. So like they just rebel and they just eat whatever they want, and they don't exercise, and they just watch TV all day or whatever, watch Netflix. But the thing is, you need to realize that your genes, your genetic expression gets passed on to your children, and your grandchildren and so forth. And the more healthier you are, the more healthier the generations are going to be down the line. So it is every single person's responsibility. If we want to see a healthier world tomorrow, it starts with ourselves. Everybody has to go within, and everyone has to take responsibility, because even though I give advice or recommendation to someone in terms of diet or exercise or lifestyle, I cannot do it for them. They need to fully embody it. They need to become it. And as you said, that people have acquired an identity with specific habits. And because it's a habit, it's very hard to break, especially if you have been doing it for years. And I don't believe in this 3-week building and breaking habits thing. I believe you need to spend like every single second of every single day thinking about changing that one thing that you want to do. It can't be just 3 weeks. You have to fully commit to it, believe it. You need to be it. You literally need to be it before it becomes a reality, because that's how manifestation works, how things come into fruition in your life. The universe presents you what you believe. So if you believe it so bad, then it will come into reality. So you really need to embody that, and the connection with the food can only be made and broken if we are aware and we start to accept what we want to do and where we want to go, and to not allow ourselves and our emotions to get into this whole idea. Because I've experienced this myself as well. Like I've had these binge eating habits, and over the years, when I used to do more this bodybuilding style stuff before I got into more holistic eating and eating more nutritious food, so I feel like more balanced now. I don't feel the need that I need to go and eat like 20 donuts like Shredo in one sitting. So basically, it all comes down to getting things balanced out first with the nutrition, like holistically, so that you are nourishing the body, so you are then allowing the mind to work a little bit more clearly. You're able to think a little bit more straight, and when you're thinking more straight, you don't make crazy decisions. And that's what is like making people not eat so good, because of course there is like a lot of marketing everywhere and stuff like that about foods that are, it's really good marketing for unhealthy foods, and that's driving a lot of the people who are eating things that they shouldn't be eating. Or even if you want to gain weight, I see a lot of people eating unhealthy foods, but you shouldn't be aiming to do that, because then you are just placing more load on your body. You are causing internal dysfunction, even though you can't see it from the outside. Let's say you're a person who doesn't gain weight easily, and you eat like a lot of unhealthy foods to gain weight, and then you train hard. Yeah, sure, you can build muscle, and maybe you look good on the outside and you have a six-pack, but on the internals, your organs are probably not liking it very much, and your detox has a lot of work to do. So health begins from the inside out. It's through the nutrition and through the mind, and wherever our awareness goes, that's where the energy flows. So
yeah. Rest in peace, those 20 donut binges. Yeah, I'm going to miss them, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating that, I think that there is kind of this like trope that maybe it was just where I grew up and the people I interacted with, but this idea that like the people who go to the gym are really like self-absorbed and they just want to just look good, but like what you're saying about this, like if we want a better world tomorrow, we have to take a better care of our internal environment, our external physique, because that's actually what we're passing down. And really what we're talking about is cloudiness of mind and awareness, because with awareness comes the responsibility of like, you were aware of the disease and then like the health. So it's like, with that comes like a choice, whereas a lot of people might not have the choice because they don't have the awareness to see that it's like, you're really fighting with cloudiness of mind and clarity of mind. And that's what you're passing down. That's what is actually affecting every one of your relationships. So really, the fitness path is actually it's a spiritual path. It's one that actually affects all of your relationships. It's the interdependence between you and other people. And by focusing on yourself and your self-care, you're actually creating a better world right then and there, because every interaction you have has that much more clarity and that much more ability for creative expression. Whereas if you don't have that awareness, if you don't have the sight of disease and health, then you're probably going to keep choosing what was handed down to you, which, I mean, I've never seen an advertisement for broccoli. It's just, you know, so like there's very apparent forces out there that kind of don't care if we're healthy or not. They probably prefer the cloudiness of mind because it's easier to sell things to.
Absolutely. You know, I see this all the time, that people who take care of themselves are more aware. For example, I see this very common thing. When I see someone in the streets and they're wearing barefoot shoes, I might go up and talk to them, and I say to them, I like your shoes, because I'm also wearing barefoot shoes, of course. And basically, most of the times, we are resonating on many more levels than just the shoes. They are more spiritually minded, they are more aware, they are more conscious, they are probably exercising, taking care of themselves, they are eating well. So you kind of see a relationship between certain habits, and you know, there is this trend that you can see, that you can find. So it's the kind of like the same on the other end as well. So people who are not taking care of their bodies, you can imagine what their lifestyle can be like. You can imagine that maybe they don't exercise, maybe they sit indoors all day, maybe they don't eat good foods, maybe they are not like communicating with others and things like that. So it really impacts your entire life, because I've seen a lot of people who start their fitness journey and they were not conscious of their entire lifestyle. They just wanted to change their body, and that's how it started with me too. I just wanted to change my body, but it got me on this journey of self-awareness, and the self-awareness led to deeper awareness of myself, which I realized is not my body, but myself that resides within me. So myself, Andreas, is not my body. I'm not me. Like, I'm just within my body right now, and this body one day is not going to be here, but my soul, myself, is going to continue, and it's going to be, you know, I don't know. Energy is never destroyed, it's only transformed. So I don't know where my soul is going to go, but basically I noticed this trend in the fitness industry. A lot of people who start training, even though you might see a lot of ego involved, they awaken so much. Even if they still look ego-driven, they have still improved dramatically from where they were before they started, just because the awareness of the body increased. Yeah. So it's insane, like how when you take care of your body. Yeah.
Well, I think it takes a degree of sensitivity to be able to like navigate this, and it's something that you end up cultivating, because I mean you might start feeling pain, and like that draws you to it, so that develops a sense of like, okay, I did too much, and like that internal sensitivity ends up expanding to a sensitivity for just all of the energies of life. You start to see like, I'm watering my garden, and now my garden is going beyond the fence line, and now there's flowers in that person's yard because of the work that I'm doing. Yeah. So in that way, like, regardless of what your soul is doing, every interaction is made better by you taking on this work. And I mean, it's one thing for us to judge the people who might be coming off as really egotistical, but if you're looking at the long arc of their soul's journey, if you will, if you want to get that far out, who knows, maybe this is the lifetime where they turn around eons of bad karma, and now they're starting to generate even just a little bit of momentum, so their next life is like one of just like a little bit more. So like encouraging good orderly direction. That's an acronym for God, good orderly direction. And I think that fitness it's your watering of your garden. You know?
Absolutely. So, you've got to take care of the body. You've got to take care of the body.
It looks like we're at time, Andreas.
Okay.
Yeah. But I love this. I if I don't cut off, then we're going to be going for 2 hours or 3 hours.
Yeah, I understand. Like, no problem at all. I completely understand if you have things to do and to get to do maybe other podcasts or whatsoever. But it was great talking with you.
This has been awesome. Really lovely. Yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. Let people know, where can they find you? How can they get involved with you? Most of my listeners are from the U.S., so I know face-to-face probably won't be a thing, but can they still interact with you digitally?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I have my website, which is Origin of Health, as you can see here on the shirt. It's originofhealth.net, and that is all one word. And I also have my Instagram, which is Andreas_David_ my surname, which is CHRISTOU. And I also have my other Instagram, which is the Origin of Health, one word, on Instagram. And from there, I post all the time, so I can navigate you to my Twitter and all the other places that I also have as well. And from there, you can contact me if you would like to be in touch in any way.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andreas. This has been a pleasure. Definitely fit right in with the themes of the show. I mean, this reminds me of my first episode. All right, my friends, that was the episode. Thank you so much for listening all the way through till the end. That was Andreas David Christou. You can find him over at originofhealth.net or at Origin of Health for all the social media stuff. I hope you really enjoyed it. I definitely did. Re-listening through to it, I picked up on some other things that I didn't the first time through, so that was really cool. That's what we had going on. If you want to support the show, again, head on over to Apple Podcasts, leave us that review. I keep saying that one in particular because it is the juiciest. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Any participation with any of that helps me leverage the show to a little bit more people who want to spread the good word. So thank you again so much. Again, originofhealth.net. Get connected. You could do some virtual trainings. You can just watch his free content. It's good. It's good for your soul. It's not junk food. That's where we're at, y'all. I hope y'all have a great week as we head into December, the last month of the year.